Welcome back to Are We There Yet? In our last episode, we arrived for a stay at our friend's house near Sandpoint, Idaho on 5 acres. They graciously allowed us to camp near the back of the property, and we spent a few days working on some things.
Here we go! All we need is an open road and a chance to see a never-ending world that's beautiful. Here we go, with the sunlight on our skin. It's a brand new day, it's ours to take, and we will let it in. This is where the adventure begins.
Now, city people forget or don't know that a septic tank must be cleaned, and so our first order of business was to hire this poor guy to take care of that smelly business. I also noticed that while my city Home Depot has barbecues outside the front door for display, Sandpoint has wood splitters, a different lifestyle for sure. In our trailer, the absorption refrigerator, which runs on propane or electricity, seemed to be either 45 degrees or minus 45 degrees, and not much in the middle. So after ruining several batches of food, we decided a 12-volt compressor refrigerator was needed. We ordered one from Texas, and I learned how to install one myself. But wait, also our batteries, our lithium batteries, weren't charging well even when plugged in. I traced the problem back to the charger, which is inside of our breaker panel. So you can't just replace the charger. I ordered a new breaker panel and learned how to rewire a complete RV panel. So after doing some minor repairs, we had a great visit with our friends, and we continued east. Winter snow was just at bay in Sandpoint, but once we crested the Sawtooth Mountains into Montana, it caught up with us. That night, we found a harvest host in Garrison, Montana, below the snow line. They call this one a creek runs through it, and it's right off the interstate. The host has created multiple RV pads, and they let you stay for free one night of no hookups or $30 for electricity. We were the only ones there that night. We decided we wanted to get to the Black Hills of South Dakota before the snow started there, so we looked up another harvest host in Billings, Montana. We landed at the Yellowstone Cellars and Winery. They did make wine here, but they imported all of their grapes from Washington State. It was a little tight to park, but they did make good pizza. The next day we made our way to the Little Bighorn Battle National Monument, just over the state border into Wyoming. The Battle of the Little Bighorn, known to the Lakota and other Plains Indians as the Battle of the Greasy Grass, and also commonly referred to as Custer's Last Stand, was an armed engagement between the combined forces of the Lakota, Sioux, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribes and the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the United States Army. The battle, which resulted in the defeat of U.S. forces, was the most significant action of the Great Sioux War of 1876. It took place on June 25th and 26, 1876, along the Little Bighorn River in the Crow Indian Reservation in southeastern Montana Territory. Now, most battles in the Great Sioux War, including the Battle of the Little Bighorn, were on lands those Indians had taken from other tribes since 1851. The Lakotas were there without consent from the local Crow tribe, which had a treaty on the area. Already in 1873, Crow Chief Blackfoot had called for U.S. Army actions against the Indian intruders. The steady Lakota invasion, a reaction to encroachment in the Black Hills, into treaty areas belonging to the smaller tribes ensured the United States a firm Indian alliance with those smaller tribes, including the Crows, during the Lakota Wars. The fight was an overwhelming victory for the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho, who were led by several major war leaders, including Crazy Horse and Chief Gall, and had been inspired by the visions of another leader, Sitting Bull. The U.S. 7th Cavalry, a force of 700 men, suffered a major defeat while commanded by Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. Now, Custer had been made a general temporarily during the American Civil War. This area was occupied by troops A, B, D, G, H, K, and M, 7th U.S. Cavalry, and the pack train when they were besieged by the Sioux Indians June 25th and 26, 1876. 5 of the 7th Cavalry's 12 companies were wiped out, and Custer was killed, as were 2 of his brothers, a nephew, and a brother-in-law. The total U.S. casualty count included 268 dead and 55 severely wounded. 6 died later from their wounds, including 4 Crow Indian scouts and 2 other Indian scouts. Public response to the Great Sioux War varied in the immediate aftermath of the battle. Libby Custer, Custer's widow, soon worked to burnish her husband's memory. And during the following decades, Custer and his troops came to be considered heroic figures in American history. The battle, and Custer's actions in particular, have been studied extensively by historians. Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument honors those who fought on both sides, and it's quite a solemn place. As we made our way across Wyoming, the wind really picked up, and it made it a long rest of the day to get to Gillette and the Harvest Host, sponsored by the very popular YouTube channel Our Wyoming Life. Mike and Aaron Galloway have a 1,300-acre cattle ranch, which also has a farm store and where we bought some homegrown ribeye steaks. I'll put a link to their channel in the show notes. You should check it out.
Cattle and stuff too?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a part-time help. I come out in the summer from California, San Francisco. When it gets cold like this,
Yeah, we're heading south right now. To South Carolina.
Thanks for watching. The weather is getting cold, but we're still determined to visit the Black Hills of South Dakota. Please take a moment to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. That helps more people find Are We There Yet? And join us for our next episode where you can find out if we actually beat the snow to South Dakota.